Well, it looks like the Democratic Party is so overcome with Trump derangement syndrome that they may have just committed suicide. Welcome to the Late Stardate, because it's always late somewhere in the world, and I'm your host, Bill Stone. We have some prepared topics tonight. Oh boy, do we have some prepared topics. Whoops, sorry. Hit the wrong button. We have some prepared topics tonight. I can talk about specifically some stuff. This is for some things if it gets a little slow. Which, judging by the fact that I have 0 concurrent viewers at the moment, is pretty much right now. One of the things we'll be discussing tonight has to do with fandom, and that is Kathleen Kennedy's retirement. Yay! After completely running everything into the ground at Lucasfilm, she is finally going to bow out at the end of this year. Skydance is looking to buy CBS, Paramount. And boy, do we have some politics to talk about this time around. I mean, nasty. As always, we will discuss things that interest us, and I'll take input from my viewers in chat. We can discuss anything about science fiction, fantasy, horror, superheroes, and other related genres. We can also talk politics, particularly where it applies to those genres, although tonight we're going to get into some politics that doesn't have anything to do with those genres whatsoever. Hang on, my phone was beeping at me for no good reason. Okay. Yeah, thank you, phone. It's telling me that I'm streaming now. Wonderful. Maybe I'll start to see some people show up as they get notified, so we shall see. I tell you, I don't want to get started talking about the politics stuff until I get some people in here. So let me scroll around and see what I can talk about that works for practically nobody being here. Here's one. Here's one. Capricorn 45. Last month, I sat here and really upsold Capricorn 45. But, despite all that, I'm not going to discuss it very much. Actually, I'm not going to discuss it at all. There are some reasons for this. That have, nothing to do with the events of the con whatsoever. The con was great, and no problem with the con. It was largely an issue of last-minute trust on the part of the con presenters and me. I got into it really, really, really late. I mean, seriously late. It was just late. And when I got into it, con committees like this on fan-run conventions want to know who the hell you are, right? They're not just going to hand out willy-nilly any kind of press pass that they want. These guys want to know they're going to hand it out to somebody they can trust. So that was not this year. They didn't know who I was. They were not going to hand me out a press pass. Now they do. And I'm going to work with them over the course of the next year, check in from time to time. And at that point, we should be able to be cool with everything. But for this year, I'm just not going to discuss it. And again, nothing wrong with the con. The con was great. But since I could not do any actual coverage of the con, I think I'd like to essentially roll this over to next year. I plan to go there next year, where I will be in much better position, and I will, be able to actually, cover the con. So, sorry about that, guys. I'm just not going to discuss it until such time as it makes sense. So now I've got to scroll down because I still have 0 viewers that I can see. I'm just scrolling. What can I talk about that I don't really care about if I don't have too many people here? Oh, hell, I guess we might as well do Gen X story time. So pull up a seat, boys and girls. It's time for old Uncle Bill to read you another bedtime story from the big book of Gen X fables. And to reiterate, because not everybody knows, but officially Generation X is defined as anyone born between 1965 and 1980, making about 62.5 million of us alive today. We are generally children of baby boomers and the greatest generation, though for some reason millennials and Gen Z tend to refer to us as boomers. I guess apparently to them, older people are just like black people to racists, and we all look alike. I am one of the earliest Gen X models, having been born on January 14th, 1965. I would point out that one of my favorite singers, Shania Twain, is the same age as me, more or less. In August, she will turn 60. And boy, is she aged better than me. Gen X, we are the last feral generation. We grew up in an era without internet and without cell phones. And aside from playing with our friends, our entertainment often came from television. However, TV wasn't really oriented to us. We watched some cartoons before and after school, and Saturday mornings, those prior to about noon, that was totally filled with children's programming. It was meant for nobody but us. And it ranged from classic Looney Tunes cartoons to some rather stupid shows with poor animation, and a few live-action programs, varied. All other programming throughout the entire week was really intended either for families or adults rather than just children. Karen Morgan is an excellent Gen X comedian, and a link to her stand-up set defining the generations that we currently have is in my description box. Every Generation Explained. Karen Morgan, link to that. I love Karen. I love Karen Morgan. I have seen her do a lot of her stuff from time to time, and I love the woman to death. In point of fact, on the 27th of this month, I will be going to see Shania Twain. I'm sorry, not Shania Twain. What am I saying? I'm going to go see Karen Morgan at the Funny Bone in Omaha, Nebraska. I'm going to have to drive the entire way across South Dakota, across the entire state, and then down south, essentially a state south. So I'm driving 2 states to see Karen Morgan on the 27th because I am a huge fan, and I will happily drive to Omaha, Nebraska, which is as close as she's going to get to me, in order to see her. One thing Karen has observed, and I hate stealing from her, if you like this particular series of jokes, go watch her stuff. Go to her tour. Karen has observed that Gen X had the opposite of helicopter parents. We had Home Depot parents, which is where it looks like there should be somebody in the store that can help you, but there's not. There's no one coming. And if you want a skill saw, well, there's only one left, and it's way up there on the top of the pile and way up on top of the ceiling. So just grab yourself a ladder, put it up, and start walking. But be careful that you shouldn't drop it on the way down and cut your arm off, because they're not going to take you to the hospital. In fact, it's going to be your fault that you got hurt. Here's what Gen X got all the time, every time we got hurt. Blow on it, rub some dirt on it, walk it off, suck it up, and the perennial, quit your crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. By the way, I see, looks like I have a viewer finally. Thank you, viewer. You're in time for Gen X story time, which is one of the things that I can do without having to worry about. It's kind of, an evergreen topic. I could talk about that when there's nobody here. So you get to hear the actual thing. And please feel free to interact with me with chat. I obviously don't have a ton of viewers, so I can talk directly to anybody who's here. So, Gen X. We went and got old. Now, this Gen X story is just a little bit different. For most of the Gen X stories I tell, this is not an amusing anecdote about growing up Gen X. This time, we're going to talk about what's happening with us right now. We are getting old. As one of our earliest members, rather shockingly, I turned 60 in January. 60. Where the hell did that time go? And the thing is, like, right, when you're getting older, when you're in your 50s, you can sort of fool yourself and claim that you're not really old. I mean, Will Wheaton from Star Trek The Next Generation, he's in his 50s, right? He's now at the age that Patrick Stewart was at the beginning of Star Trek The Next Generation. And, hell, he doesn't look like he's in his 50s. But then again, he's probably worked on it and has aged considerably better than I did. However, at 60, you just can't fool yourself anymore. I'm getting old. I'm a senior citizen. I can't fracking believe it. Hey, second viewer, great to see you here tonight, doing a Gen X story. In fact, I once had a professor in college who probably was about the same age as I am now. And he observed that internally, and this is absolutely true, you feel like you're 15 years old, but then your body kind of reminds you that you are not. And this is especially true of Gen X. We are fond of saying that we are as old, as young as we ever were, and as old as we're ever going to get. But hitting this age does kind of suck, as I'm sure people in my generation now know. And for me, it's not the failing body, nor the reality that you have far more years behind you than you have in front of you. It's that your experience is totally ignored. Anyone my age who is not politically polarized by this has seen the same lies and propaganda spread by both parties over and over and over again. It never ends. Lies, propaganda, lies, propaganda, lies, propaganda. I mean, I can scream it in the face of younger people and they will not believe it. And I get it. After all, they are experiencing it for the first time, as opposed to having experienced it untold numbers of times over a period of 60 years. It never ends. Lies, propaganda, lies, propaganda. It doesn't matter who's in power. Whenever one party gets in power, they tell lies and propaganda about the other party. And when the other party gets in power, they tell lies and propaganda about the other party. There's nothing we can do about it. The wheel just keeps turning, and there's not a damned thing that those of us who know better can do to stop it. That's a tough nut to swallow. It really is. Especially after you've had some children, right? You kind of get used to raising these children, right? Where what you say goes, whether they like it or not. Ultimately, the answer to the question, why do I have to do that, Daddy, is because I said so. So now I'm 60. I don't have the kids. My kids are totally estranged from me. I don't even know if I have grandchildren. I do have some nieces and nephews that have children that would be grandchildren age. I'm Uncle Bill to them. But again, it's pretty much, hey, man, don't do that, because I said so. But now, this aspect of aging, nobody listens to us. Just nobody listens to us at all. Nobody cares whatsoever. And it's just something I guess, that I'm just going to have to accept. That I've gotten to the age where nobody younger gives a crap what I have to say about anything. There's times that I wish my father was still around. My dad was a psychologist, a very excellent judge of character. And, I think in my entire life, he was, when we got into something political or something that involved the human psyche, he was only ever wrong twice. And he didn't live to see the fact that I was right. It just keeps turning. It just keeps turning. The wheel keeps turning and turning and turning, and there's nothing we can do about it. It's just going to be lies and propaganda, lies and propaganda, lies and propaganda, lies and propaganda, incessantly. It is never going to end. And as an early Gen Xer who's 60 years old and is old, I just have to come to terms with that. I'd like my dad to be around. I'd be curious to know how he coped with this when he got to this stage of his life. But he died too young for that. And frankly, part of the reason that I do this is because of things that my father said to me. I occasionally sort of feel him sitting over my shoulder, you know. So, you know, Dad, if you can impart any wisdom from the great beyond, feel free. Nobody cares anymore. Marshall Presnell, hey, buddy, I see here in here. Listen, you upstart Xer, you haven't lived until you had to walk uphill both ways to school and then get switched for ditching. Boomer here. Yes, I know. You're a late boomer. I get that. And you know he was a great pilot in Battlestar Galactica. Yes, the first one. Yeah, I haven't yet claimed to go to school uphill both ways, but I can say that in the middle of a blizzard, they didn't used to have all kinds of snow days like they do now, right? They didn't have that stuff when I was growing up. There was a gigantic blizzard across the entire country in 1978. Just huge blizzard. I remember the snow. It was like, by 8 o'clock in the morning, it was 2 feet high. It was horrible. We didn't have a snow day. We went to school. So, yeah, I didn't walk uphill both ways, but we didn't have snow days. Millennials and Gen Z have it very easy comparatively. So, Marshall, you're with me here now. And I've already done my Gen X story time because I didn't want to get into a bunch of other stuff that's a little more substantive before I at least had somebody here. And hey, you're somebody, so you get to listen straight off to some of my prepared topics. And I have prepared topics. Tonight we will be discussing Kathleen Kennedy's retirement. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. That woman is finally going to be leaving Lucasfilm forever. Not that it matters. We're going to talk about how Skydance, of all people, Skydance is looking at buying CBS, Paramount, Viacom. I have no idea which it is now. But ultimately, they're talking about CBS and Paramount Pictures. And then, boy, do we have some politics to discuss. Oh, boy. There is the M key. I'm not sure what you're meaning there. I'm sorry. As always, we will discuss things that interest us. And I will take input from my viewers in chat. We can discuss anything about science fiction, fantasy, horror, superheroes, and other related genres. We can also talk politics. I usually try to limit that to something that's related to science fiction, fantasy, horror, superheroes, and other related genres. But in this case, I absolutely cannot. Oh, the politics of the last 48 hours. Oh, my God. There are some subjects that are off limits for me. My guess is that they're probably the same subjects that would be off limits for you. So if we run into one, I'll probably tell you. Otherwise, I won't. I'll just say no, let's move on. Oh, mute. Mute hotkey. I've been upstart. Okay. I use the mute button. If I have to, I use the mute button in OBS, Open Broadcast software. I don't touch anything to speak of in that stupid YouTube control panel. It's damn near useless anyway. I'm never sure if I actually have only one viewer, like now, or maybe I've got 2 or 3. It's supposed to show it to me, but it doesn't. Not reliably. So getting into politics, let's start with the easy stuff first. Hang on a second. I got to get rid of this desktop clock. It's eating up CPU time. Don't need it after I've already gone live. Wonderful metrics. Oh, what metrics? You want to know what's real fun? I posted this on X and aimed it at the YouTube support team. I was somebody had asked me on a video that I'd put up. It was a reply to a comment on a video. Jon Stewart had some ridiculous crap to say about President Trump, and I made the comment because he was talking about Europe and all the other stuff. And I made the comment that this schmuck has no idea what modern Europe is like, and that went through. That was cool. Everything was fine. And then a few days ago, somebody replied to it and said, "What are you talking about? Trump's been to Europe, blah, 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 blah." So I wrote down, I said, "Hey, no, I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about Jon Stewart." And I made this reply. Frankly, it was kind of poetic. I wish I had kept the thing because YouTube auto-deleted it. And then it auto-deleted the next 3 replies. It auto-deleted 4 whole replies. The final one read, "YouTube delete me 4 replies. Me use bad grammar. Me do weird stuff. Maybe me get past censors. Me mean Stewart, not Trump." And that one went through. These idiots. Because, look at this. That wasn't my video, but suppose it was, right? Somebody's writing a reply back. Well, YouTube measures engagement based on how many likes and the engagement is how many comments you're getting, right? So if they're off deleting my comments, I don't know how many they've deleted, which may have led to people not subscribing to me or unsubscribing to me because maybe they thought I was deleting it. And I guess I shot this up to YouTube with very loud caps screaming, "You've got to fix this." I don't know how badly my channel may or may not be suffering when they delete stuff like this. So, up yours, YouTube, fix it. Schmucks. Okay. A little bit of relative break in emotionalness here because I'm going to get to something that is real emotional. I want you to understand, I never, ever do any kind of rehearsing. What I often do is if I will have prepared remarks, I will run through them. And a run through on prepared remarks is basically just me walking through it and talking and not doing, okay, now I see this, now I see that, now I see that. So I never, ever, ever actually rehearse what I'm going to do. It's all a shock to me when it happens. But there's one thing here, Marshall knows this, that may well cause me to go full Howard Beale. But not this one. This one is RFK Jr. and his Make America Healthy Again thing. This is utterly unconstitutional. There is no language in the Constitution that authorizes the federal government to be involved in your diet, your nutrition, or anything else in any way. Under the 10th Amendment, it is therefore a power reserved to the states or the people. And I would say the people are the right ones to deal with in this. Now, we have been doing unconstitutional crap with respect to this since George McGovern in the 1970s. George McGovern, who was from South Dakota, the schmuck, George McGovern got passed into law the food pyramid. And that sort of worked for a little while, but guess what? The food pyramid is wrong. It's not what you should be eating in order to be healthy. But they had enshrined this in law. And the problem is when you enshrine science into law, it is damn near impossible to ever get it changed. So here he is doing more unconstitutional crap on top of more unconstitutional crap. Now, let me tell you, I'm diabetic, I'm type 2 diabetic, and now I have stage 2 kidney disease. The diabetes is the more pressing of the two issues, so that's the one I kind of pay attention to. If it comes down and my kidney disease, if it comes down to me having to go on dialysis, I won't. I'll just go somewhere to die. In order for me to have Medicare pay for a dialysis, I would have to liquidate every asset that I have, which includes my family ranch land. And that is never going to happen. So if something really bad goes on with my kidneys, I will simply say, okay, what can I look forward to? How long am I going to have? And then I'll go someplace to lay down to die. And my heirs will get what I have left them. The other problem with this whole thing being totally unconstitutional is that we have, statistically, 100% of people in the United States who are addicted to sugar. 340 million sugar addicts. 340 million sugar addicts. Now, Gen X, we got addicted to sugar oftentimes in our teens or in our 20s, college, whatever. And then our children, the millennials, Gen Z, they were addicted in the womb. It is no different than if a woman is doing crack during her pregnancy. She will be born with a baby that is addicted to crack. The same thing is true of sugar. If you're eating a lot of sugar while your baby's in the womb, your baby is born addicted to sugar. We have 4 generations now addicted to sugar. Gen X, millennials addicted in the womb, Gen Z addicted in the womb, and now Gen Alpha addicted in the womb. 340 million sugar addicts. Now, I don't talk about this a ton, but I'm not ashamed of it. I think maybe, if I talk about it, maybe somebody else who's in the same position might hear it. I was, for a while, addicted to opiates. At the turn of the 20th century, I was addicted to opiates. And on January 1st, 2004, I went to my parents' house. My parents were psychologists, so I knew I was doing this in a safe way. Handed them my pills, which were hydrocodone, and I had been taking a ton of them. I'd never reached rock bottom. I just knew that I was about to end up spending all my money on these drugs. So I handed the pills off to my father. I said, "Don't give these to me." And I went downstairs to their basement, and I went cold turkey. This was, by far, the most difficult thing that I have ever done in my life. But it taught me one thing, that I have an iron will. If I want to do something, I will do it. I have an iron will. If I can kick opiates, which is a horrible experience, if I can go cold turkey from opiates and walk away and never take them again, then I have an iron will and I can do anything that I feel like. But that ain't the case for 340 million sugar addicts. Now, I was diagnosed type 2 diabetic in 2004 or 5, I've forgotten. And I always believed that instead of going out and buying sugary crap to eat, I should try and control my diabetes with a very, very low carbohydrate, low sugar diet. And for about 10 years, I didn't have to take any medications at all for my diabetes. It was totally controlled by my diet. And then I went and got old. My body started breaking down, and now I have to take medications. And the fact that I have stage 2 kidney disease means I'm taking medications for that. I have an ulcer, I'm taking medications for that. It's all just breaking down on me. But the thing about it is, if you want to have people who are not sugar addicts out of the womb, that means that, and by the way, sugar addiction, if you go off of it, there is withdrawal. It's nothing like opiates. Nothing like opiates. But when I started doing nothing but a low-carb, low-sugar diet, I did go through sugar withdrawal. Now, if RFK Jr. wants to make America healthy again, that means 340 million sugar addicts are going to have to kick it. Because that, I am absolutely certain, is the reason why we have such a gigantic number of people who have type 2 diabetes in the United States. It's that everything that we buy on the shelves is filled with sugar, and everyone is an addict. And if you tried to take the sugar away from them, they would all be going through sugar withdrawal at the same time, and you would be forced to reverse whatever your policy is, because you will not be able to deal with 340 million sugar addicts. The thing about when you have a really restrictive diet like mine, because even though stage 2 kidney disease and type 2 diabetes, the diets for them are like diametrically opposed. I went to a nutritionist, and all she did was say, okay, let's put you on some heart-healthy foods. Well, okay, yeah, I get it. I'm old. I'm probably starting to be at risk if I'm not careful for things like, heart disease, heart attacks, stuff like that. I get it. But my immediate concern is my diabetes and my freaking kidneys. What the hell can I eat, lady? Nothing. She didn't give me nothing, so I just kind of winged it. And then I went to the doctor to have my regular blood work done, and the winging it hadn't made the slightest bit of difference. So I just simply went back to my diabetic diet. Marshall says, fix what you can without drugs? Absolutely. Endure what you must. Take only the drugs you have to. Yeah, been my modus operandi for 40 years. Yeah, same here. Ever since my diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. Ever since that. Again, got old. It's not working anymore. And I have so many meds. I've turned into like my grandparents. I just have an entire... I don't have a medicine cabinet full of meds. I have 3... shelves in a kitchen cabinet full of meds. Admittedly, a bunch of them are a lot of meds, because some of them, I have one gabapentin, which is the one that treats my anxiety disorder, and if I get without that, life becomes miserable. So I have a ton of that as a backlog. But, a lot of it I still do have, 3 whole shelves in there. So now, if you're thinking about trying to get off sugar like I did, you're going to find that you have an extraordinarily limited diet. When I go to like a supermarket, a big supermarket with lots and lots of different stuff, I can really only buy 5 or 6 things in 2 or 3 aisles. Let me give you, I brought some visual aids. So let me give you some visual aids of what you can expect to eat on a low-sugar, low-carb diet. We like meat. I have hamburger patties. I have mountains of hamburger patties. And the thing about it is, when you're eating this kind of diet, you can kind of have all the hamburger patties you want. I usually eat 2 at a time because I don't have that much of an appetite. My appetite's actually been decreasing for the last several weeks, which is kind of good. I'm starting to lose weight again, hopefully I'll get down to where I want to be. But we like meat. We like beef jerky for snacks. We like that. Low carb. Let's see what this one says. 7 grams of carbohydrates, 0 grams of dietary fiber, and 6 grams of sugar. Those are what you pay attention to, by the way. Those 3 things. Total carbohydrates, dietary fiber, and sugar. Total carbohydrates is interesting because you can take that and subtract, if there are dietary fibers in it, you can subtract the dietary fibers from the total carbohydrates. And then you just add the sugars to it. So for this one, with 7 grams of carbohydrates, 6 grams of sugar, that's 13 grams total. It's okay. That's okay. I can cope with that. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Hey, Jeanette, nice to see you too this evening. I know you got your own thing to do, but hey, be as long as you can. As I say, we like meat. Here's a bunch of hot dogs. Again, same deal. Looking at the, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to put on my Clark Kent glasses because I can't see that close. Let's see. 4 grams of carbohydrates, 0 grams of sugar, of fiber, and 1 sugar. So we got 5 total. 5 total. That's great. We love 5 total. We like meat. So here I have beef sticks. You don't have. It doesn't have to be beef sticks. You can use other, like turkey ones are a lot cheaper than these. That's the other thing about this. With very few exceptions, they are extremely expensive. Going on a healthier diet is just expensive. Yeah, incognito glasses. Yes, it's my Clark Kent glasses, and they really are. I hate these things. You have no idea how I hate these things. Later this year, when I go in and I'll eventually, my eyes are slowly deteriorating, I'll have to get a new pair of glasses, and I'm not going to get these. I had thought that I had some kind of allergic reaction to the metal in my previous pair. No, turns out that I have eczema. So I got a new pair of glasses with these freaking things that I don't like. But the thing is, my eyes changed since the last time, so they're the only one. I gotta wear them. So, yes, I take them off. You cannot. I'm one person. Put them back on, and I'm meek and mild. All right, other things that we can eat. Atkins Foods. As it happens, Safeway in Rapid City sells these. A lot of stores don't. I'd look at your local Safeway. Meek my ass, Jeanette says. Yes, Christopher Reeve, I ain't. George Reeves, I ain't. But we like Atkins Foods. You know why? Because they are intentionally low carbohydrate, low sugar. In this one, we have 5 net carbs. Let me look and see what it says on the back. 7 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of dietary fiber, 4 grams of sugar. Okay, we subtract the dietary fiber from the carbohydrates. That gives us 5. And then we get, add the 5 to the 4 sugars, we get 9. Well, okay, we got 5 carbs, but it's 9 all told. Okay, and that's good. That's great. 9 all told. We're wonderful. Happy. Atkins makes a lot of different foods. For example, we have this cheesy, what the hell is it? Cheesy chicken risotto. They make a lot of these. Only problem with them is they don't make a huge number of them, so you ultimately eat the same thing over and over and over again. Marshall says, lowering carb intake is usually an extremely good idea for most. I try to stay under 100 a day. I fail a lot. Yeah. I just spend a crap load of money on my food so that it's just automatically going to be. I don't even track it. I look at it at the store if it's new food, but I don't even track what I'm eating. Other things you can eat is stuff like dairy products, certain dairy products. Oddly enough, sour cream, and this is the best choice sour cream, the brand sour cream from my local grocery store here in Wall. Again, if we look at the nutritional stuff, 1 gram of carbohydrates, 0 dietary fibers, 1 gram of sugar. You can put this on anything. You can eat that to your heart's content. I wouldn't just, take spoonfuls out and eat it like that, but that's good. That means I've got a condiment that I can really use, Yes, love sour cream. Yeah, it's a condiment that I can actually use, and it is a condiment because I can't use ketchup. It's all sugar. Mustard is better, but that's the best. And yes, cheese is pretty good carb-wise. Oh, yeah, cheese, man. Oh, yeah. I got a crap load of cheese. I didn't put it out here because it's too big. But I buy cheese in these big bags that they sell. It's shredded cheese. I buy them in big bags like this because then I can throw them in anything. If I want extra cheese in my Atkins stuff, I just take it in, put it in the microwave, boom, I've got more cheese. If I want to put cheese on my burgers, just sprinkle it over the top of it on my George Foreman grill, and I've got, a cheeseburger. So yeah, cheese, man. You can pretty much eat all the cheese you want. It's this stuff. Yeah, Marshall knows the bags well. Yeah. You can also eat lots of chicken and fish. Chicken and fish is also good. I'm not eating chicken and fish right at the moment because what happens is you get really bored with this diet. It's just so boring. It's the same stuff over and over and over again. And so what tends to happen is I'll go through a meat phase where I just eat a ton of meat like I've got here now. Or I might switch over and start going through a chicken phase because I got sick of the meat. Might slide over to, fish, etc. But meat's good. Meat is good. Very few carbs. If you watch it, make sure you get it so that it hasn't been treated with 9 million grams of sugar because some of them are. Other things I can eat, again, Atkins food here. This doesn't necessarily have to be Atkins. Basically any of these protein drinks, that they sell like Ensure and stuff like that. Marshall says, I prefer sous vide cooking technique. Way better than the George Foreman grill. Takes more time, worth it. I cannot. I'm a terrible chef. I can't cook to save my life. I burn water. I need stuff that's more or less prepared or very easy to make. It's just where I'm at. But this thing here, this is an Atkins drink. This is dark chocolate royale. I mean, okay, it kind of tastes like that. If we look at the back here, 6 carbohydrates, 4 dietary fibers, 1 sugar. That means 6 minus 4 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So we have 3 that we're carrying about in here. 3 per serving. And I do drink a lot of these guys. Not as much as the other stuff you've seen me drink, but I do drink them. Odd part about it is, they taste pretty good, but they tend to dehydrate you. I have to eat something else. So Jeanette says, I can cook fine, but I never got into sous vide, and never will. Marshall's telling me you need sous vide. I've never had a bad cook from them. My filet mignon, wow, prepared with SV attracts people from 180 miles away. I'll have to get 180 miles within you at some point, Marshall. I'll take a look at it. It's just that, it's like me and plants, man. I got a black thumb. So, you can eat some asparagus. I tend to eat asparagus spears. I don't have any here because I've eaten it since I usually get 2 or 3 cans. That's everything. All of this stuff is canned. Sometimes I get it, fresh out of produce. But the thing about it is the canned stuff lasts longer. And for the last 4 years, I have been having to ration my diet. Buying for myself, the last time I did it, cost me $400. And it nowhere near filled up the cart. I can't spend $400 on these things. I have too limited an income. So I've been rationing for 4 years, and it's sort of paying off in as much as I'm losing weight. And let me tell you something about prices. Trump talks about bringing them down. He can't. It's impossible to bring down prices. Once inflation has run the prices up, they never come back down. He can ease the cost of gas, but nothing else. Not a single other thing. If it was possible to reduce prices after inflation hits, then gas would only be 25 cents a gallon, the same as it was when I first started driving. Comic books would be a dime. Everything would be much, much, much cheaper. You cannot ever reduce prices after inflation has hit. This is one of the things that Trump lied about. Let's see. Jeanette says, you eat veggies and omelets. Yeah, well, one of these Atkins foods, I could probably figure out how to deal with omelets. One of them is, in fact, a breakfast meal. Farmhouse-style sausage scramble. And I usually throw a ton of more cheese on top of it. Yes, Marshall says debasement is a ratcheting process. Once debased, currency never recovers. Yeah. The prices we have right now are going to be the same prices that we have until they go up again. They will never, ever, ever go down. This is one of those things that I talked about in my Gen X thing early on that bugs me. I know this. I know this from decades of experience, but no young person is ever going to listen to me. They don't care. I'm an irrelevancy. I have reached the age where I'm a senior citizen who is no longer listened to, and it's really frustrating. Anyway, other stuff you can have. I eat a lot of mixed vegetables, and since I'm a guy, sometimes I'll add them to things, sometimes I'll just eat it straight out of the can. If we look at this, 7 grams of carbohydrates, 1 dietary fiber, and 3 sugars. 7 minus 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. Good. Condiments. Can't use ketchup. Mustard is better. Sour cream is the best, but I also like Mrs. Dash. You can't use pepper and salt. Pepper's better, but never use salt. Never use salt. Just get rid of that. Mrs. Dash, if we look at the nutrition serving here, total carbs, 1 gram. Not a significant source of saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, fiber, total sugars, added sugars. So basically, this sucker is 1 gram of carbohydrates. I use this everywhere. You can pour everything on this. Yeah, Nanette says ketchup is gross. I haven't eaten it in so long. I used to have it all the time. You dip fries in it and stuff like that. But after I got diabetic and I was trying to control it, and I looked at that, and it's all sugar. It's sugar with a little bit of, tomato flavoring, I guess. Lettuce. We love salads. You can eat lots and lots of lettuce. You can put certain types of vegetables and mix it in if you want, something like this. But there's all sorts of other vegetables, fresh vegetables you can mix in with it. You can mix in cheese and stuff like that. So I eat a lot of salads. It's kind of like eating air, to be perfectly honest. If you're hungry, fix yourself a big salad. You'll get your hunger satisfied without really doing anything to your diet. Also for dressing on that, I strongly recommend ranch. I've been eating nothing ranch dressing for two decades. It does get a little old. One thing to remember about it is if you're looking for ranch dressing, don't get light, don't get anything with fat removed, any of that crap, because if you look at the back, what they've done is they may have taken out the sugars, and this is common with foods. They may have taken out the sugars, but in order to make it taste good, they threw in a crap load of carbohydrates. Well, regular old ranch dressing, which I didn't pull out for some reason, is very low. So you can pour all of that on a salad. Now, snacks. I often use quartered artichoke hearts. I don't have any with me because I ate them all since I last got my groceries, but those are pretty good. Peanuts, also pretty good. If we look here, it's a little higher. Carbohydrates, 6. Dietary fibers, 2. Sugars, 1. 6 minus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. Good deal here. That is for a single serving. So that's a single serving is fairly small, but that's still really good. We like that. What else do I have here? Oh, drinks. Now you've all seen me for years drinking this Hy-Vee flavored water. It's water with some flavoring, no sugar, no carbs. I can drink this to my heart's content. Unfortunately, they're made only by Hy-Vee, which is a regional chain based out of Des Moines, and they are several hundred miles away from me. Fortunately, I discovered at the Safeway in Rapid, one of the Safeways in Rapid, offers the same thing, a Safeway branded drink. It's the same exact thing. Lots and lots and lots of those. I practically filled the frickin' refrigerator with them because I could just take them out and drink them. And that's actually reasonably good for my kidney disease as well. Water is good, and this is just flavored water. There's nothing in there that needs to be cleaned out by my kidneys. Marshall also said, sorry, I didn't catch this. The hardest thing to get people to realize about asset prices is that you have two varying values plotted, the value of the asset and the value of the dollar. Yeah, and the value of the dollar is decreasing every day. Other things we can use for snacks. Rice cakes. This is basically like eating air. You can eat all you want them. When I eat them, I usually will dip them in the sour cream. It's air and sour cream. Also, pork rinds. Pork rinds are great. They're air. And I've gotten sick of them, which is why I don't have any right now. At some point, I'll get sick of some of this other stuff, and I'll go back to buying the pork rinds. But you can eat pork rinds. You can get just, it's air. You're eating nothing but air. Again, as drinks is what I've seen there, and I can do. You can also, drinking water is good. I don't know what milk is like for, if we're doing a diabetic diet or something like that. But this is pretty much everything. I do cheat a little. I have these small potatoes. This one is a lot more. 16 grams of carbohydrates, 2 grams of dietary fiber, and 1 of sugar. So 16 minus 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15. That's high for me, but it's not horrible. It's not horrible, and I like these potatoes. I can put them in the microwave, heat them up, dip them in the sour cream, put a little Mrs. Dash on them, and, I'm just eating them. Can I have wild rice? No, absolutely not. Rice, bread, anything like that is incredibly high in carbohydrates. No. No rice, no bread, no, what else can't I have? No spaghetti, nothing with noodles in it. If it's based around a wheat product, forget it. It's just going to be nothing but carbs and sugar, especially bread. Oh, my God. Just carbs and sugar. Sugar, 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 sugar. There are a couple of breads, and I have one, that are keto breads. It's a keto diet, and they're very low in carbs and sugar. But then I have to get peanut butter that's low in carbs and sugar. And by the way, butter you can have to your heart's content. Amazingly enough, that's fine. You can get butter and put it on anything to your heart's content. Anyway, that's pretty much what I eat. That's it. You have now seen my entire diet. The only difference is there's a whole... Oh, stupid phone. The only difference is there's a whole bunch more of it off in my cabinets and my fridge. But you have just seen my entire diet. And it is something that is very expensive. Very, very expensive. If you want to eat healthy, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. And you may end up having to do your, what I do is ration my groceries. Jeanette says, use zoodles, zucchini, spag noodles, very tasty. I would have to just check. I'm not sure what zucchini is in terms of carbs and sugar. I'd have to check. I will tell you that I do sometimes have gone, when I want to splurge, I go to Who Hot, which is basically sort of Chinese. You get to build your own meal and then watch it be cooked and all that. One of the nice things about that is that I can control what's going into my dish. So yeah, I'll probably get some noodles that I'm not supposed to eat. But then there's everything else that I can. There's the meat, there's the pork. You can have pork. There's the meat. There's, all of the stuff that you can get and put on it. That's great. What I usually do when I go to Who Hot is I will actually go through the buffet 3 times. I will utterly stuff myself, and then I won't eat for the rest of the day. Oh, my mic went out? Is it out now? Because I'm seeing it. Let me check this. Advanced properties. No. GAD mic is up. Properties. GAD mic is chosen. Ping me. Can you, if you can hear me now, ping me. Why would it cut out? I mean, I can see it. I can see the levels on my control panel going up and down for this GAD mic. You can hear me, I think, bumped a chord. Okay, that, oh, yeah, if I got softer. That, soft I can fix. Go to my GAD mic, go to advanced audio properties, and instead of 150%, we'll make it 200. Is this any better? Are you hearing me any better at this point? I turned the level up on my mic to 200%, so hopefully you can. Because I want to start talking about the politics. The freaking politics. It's the same volume. Okay, yeah, there's the GAD mic. Let's kick it way the hell up. Okay, is this any better? Here I am. Okay, all right. This is 500% volume. So if this is too bad, let me know. All right, so this is diabetic diet over here. This is everything I eat. It's just, one thing of it as opposed to the 5 that I have inside my fridge. And it's boring. It's really boring. Can you imagine? Can you possibly imagine 340 million people actually kicking sugar and then eating nothing but this? Ain't happening. So not only is Make America Healthy Again unconstitutional, I think it's totally doomed because 99.9999999% of the population isn't going to want to eat this. They're going to eat the same stuff they've been eating their whole lives, and they're going to be sugar addicts. Okay, that's my meals. Those are what I eat. What time is it? Okay, 8:57. So I want to talk a little bit. I'm gonna ease into the really horrible stuff that the Democrats did 2 nights ago. I'm gonna ease into that by talking first about Trump's first actions in office. Trump has been signing a lot of executive orders. I hate that. He is essentially creating law with executive orders. That's not what he's supposed to do. That's not what any president's supposed to do. And they've all done it for my entire life and back before I was born. They will send out what amounts to a decree, which is basically making law, as if they had the power to do that. No, the power to make laws is with Congress and the Senate. They come up with the bills, send it to the president, and the only thing that he's supposed to do is either sign it into law or veto it. He is not supposed to sign executive orders that are essentially decrees and law. That's not what the presidency is for. The presidency has become what libertarians used to call, and still do, the imperial presidency. It means that while he is not supposed to be one, the president is, in any kind of practical way, the president is an elected king. Congress has essentially ceded most of their authority over to the president, and that's because they're all pussies. They want power, but they don't want any responsibility for it. So they just go, well, let's let the president handle that. That way, if it all goes tits up, we can say, not my fault. I didn't vote for that. No, it was the president. It's his fault. Yes, Congress ain't stepping up. That's exactly right. What I would like to see Trump do, if he's going to use the imperial presidency, is use it to crush what he's doing right now, to crush the federal government. Take a freaking baseball bat to the entire thing. Make it look like Charles Foster Kane destroying his wife's bedroom. Destroy it all, tear it down, rip it to shreds, out by the roots. And if he's got to use the imperial presidency to do that, okay. But here's what I'd really like him to do. In his fourth year, turn that same thing back on the presidency. Destroy the imperial presidency on your way out the door. Make it so that no one will ever be able to do what you did again. He goes out there, corrects the course, kicks out all of the freaking government agencies that we don't need and all the waste, and gets it back to something reasonable. Then turn it right back on the office of the presidency and kill the imperial presidency. Make it so that no president after him can ever do what he's done. Not only can Congress not do what they've been doing, the president can't. I like to say this is make America constitutional again. And that's my thoughts about his imperial presidency actions. I'm not thrilled with it, but it is what it is. He's not doing anything different than every other president of my lifetime and every president going back. I don't know how far. Executive orders used to be something that were supposed to be clarifications of existing laws and how they're going to be, enforced and stuff like that. Now they're just laws. They're just laws, and by another name. And we have now slapped pretty big tariffs on Chinese goods. Good. I am not one of those people, and there are a bunch of them who are going around, what's going to happen? Tariffs, this is going to destroy the economy. Tariffs will destroy the economy. No, we're already seeing the positive benefits of these tariffs. The tariffs do a number of different things. One, it is a negotiating tactic. You can slap on high tariffs so that the people you're slapping it on will alter their behavior, reduce their own tariffs, which China has had lots of on our goods forever. You can reduce, usually what you'll find is that, especially with the United States and our consumer kind of society, we buy a ton of stuff. And the tariffs just mean if they stay on, and we're starting to see this happening, it increases the cost of doing business in, say, China. It increases the cost of doing business there. Right now, the cost of doing business is nothing. But by having a big tariff on it, that means, okay, well, we're having to pay a bunch of this for it. And it suddenly becomes more economical for a company to say, hey, let's go over and do it in the U.S., where we don't have these tariffs. And that's exactly what's happening. 3 months in, and we're already seeing companies saying, yeah, okay, we're going to put some manufacturing back into the U.S. That would be awesome. Those are good, well-paying union jobs. When you do manufacturing, it is well-paying union jobs. And particularly the left wants to tell everybody that they all need to go to college and they all need to work in an office. And I got to tell you, I used to work for a company that makes more than 50% of the Girl Scout cookies in the world. Imagine oven lines. We had 3 oven lines, 100 yards long. That is real manufacturing. And the deal is, I certainly learned from that. There are people, lots of people, for whom an office job is the worst thing that you could give them. They're not prepared to do an office job. Maybe they're just not smart enough. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I always point out, man, There's me and Michael Jordan. If we're playing basketball, Michael Jordan wins every single time. He's better than me. The same thing happens with intelligence. I'm a pretty bright guy, but Marshall is brighter than I am. My oldest friend in the world is damn near a genius. I'm not as smart as they are. And there are people who are not as smart as me. And some of those people do better on a production line where actions are consistently repetitive. You teach somebody how to do one thing once, and they'll do it over and over and over and over for the entire shift. And they'll do it well. Some people are not suited for an office job. They need to have a well-paying manufacturing job, and that will bring back our our middle class. Getting those people out of the damned offices where they don't fit, and putting them into a production line where they do fit. That'd be awesome, and that's what we're doing here. Jeanette says tariffs are better than taxation and that college useless unless you're going for a doctor, lawyer, or your MRS. Yeah, STEM. If you're going into STEM, absolutely, go to college. If you're going to be a lawyer, go to college. And yes, Jeanette's talking about the MRS degree. That's something that's been a joke for generations. That millennials and Gen Z are now really pissed that we use. What it describes is, here's a perfect one, right? One of my ex's friends, her maid of honor, in fact, went all the way through medical school, got her MD, did residency, but the whole point that she went there was to marry a doctor. And after she'd married the doctor, she did not go into medicine. She was an MD who had been through residency and could have worked as a general practitioner, but no, she got married and didn't do it. That's the MRS degree. She was going for her MRS. Mrs. There are women who will go to college for no other reason than to find a man, particularly somebody like a doctor, lawyer, an engineer, somebody who makes money. They're getting their MRS degree. And that, for me, was just the perfect example of somebody doing that. Anyway, back to some of what I was talking about with Chinese goods. There are a lot of reasons that Americans buy from China, because not only are their goods a fraction of the cost of U.S. manufactured goods, even with tariffs in some case, they amazingly can get those goods from China, from the manufacturer in China, to LAX in less than 4 days. I was stunned. And 4 days from China to LAX. I know this sort of thing probably means I bumped my freaking microphone again. Am I okay? I know this thing probably means nothing to millennials and Gen Z, and but you have to remember that for the first 10 years or so, almost, of my life, the United States didn't even have diplomatic relations with China. 5 by 5. Thank you, Jeanette. There is, of course, the old Vulcan proverb, only Nixon could go to China. So anyway, I ordered this thing from China, and I always, watch. I'm anal retentive about it, so I watch things like, okay, how is it passing? Where is it now? I do the look up tracking and stuff like that. So 4 days after it loaded onto a truck, it got to Los Angeles. I think they changed shippers because their website, which is really, really good about showing exactly where the package was, until it got to somewhere in the U.S. And I'm not entirely sure. I think they probably changed carriers, likely to the United States Postal Service, USPS, but I don't have a tracking number for it, so I can't tell. The last it said was it's en route. So I don't know where it is. But if they changed shippers to USPS, getting from LA to Wall, South Dakota in less than 4 days is a ludicrous idea. The delivery route will probably take it through Dallas for a sorting facility and maybe up to Kansas City for another sorting facility. It'll bounce around internally for a while or sit on a shelf somewhere for a while. It can be from hours to days. And then it'll hit Sioux Falls, South Dakota, in the extreme eastern side. It's at the border. And from there, it'll go to Rapid City, South Dakota, which is on the other side of the state on the west. It's 50 miles west of me. And they'll bypass Wall, which is kind of amazing, right? Wall is literally between these two distances, right? We're a tourist trap. You cannot miss us. We're right there off of exit 110. You can't miss us. And in fact, knowing, as I do so well, the drive between Sioux Falls and Rapid City, I am dead certain that truck stops in Wall to get gas. So then my package will eventually bounce around in Rapid City for a while before finally being put on a truck bound for some of the smaller towns to the east. And it'll usually finally get delivered to Wall in the same day that it leaves Rapid City, because we're very close. We're basically the next big small town out. It'll get delivered in Wall basically about the same time as the postmaster arrives for work. And the Wall postmaster is the only truly efficient link in this entire damn chain. Within an hour, they'll have the package scanned and in my P.O. box, because the resident population of Wall is 700. They don't do curbside delivery. We each have a P.O. box. So it'll either be scanned and in my P.O. box, or they'll have a tag in my P.O. box if it's large to go to the desk, or there'll be a key in the box to the small lockers that are opposite the post office boxes. Now, this doesn't seem like a big deal because Wall is a small town, but it's still not a simple task for the one postmaster who works there. Because USPS, for average person, is also the delivery point for UPS and Amazon. Rather than driving to your home, UPS and Amazon drop off all their packages at the post office for final delivery, which means the postmaster scans and shelves just a ton of stuff, most of it by 9 a.m. And I've seen it. I mean, they end up with a wall of boxes that are mostly Amazon. I would have to suggest that there are way more UPS and Amazon packages delivered to that Wall post office than there are USPS deliveries. To be honest, 99% of what I get with the USPS is just junk mail still. So all that time to get from LAX to me, but 4 days to get from China to LAX. That's just astonishing me. The Chinese, frankly, have it all over American companies when it comes to shipping. We need the CEOs of UPS, FedEx, and most especially the UPS to look at what China's doing and then improve on it, because you guys suck. And that's no lie. You're about as much fun as watching paint dry. You lower my IQ one notch, and that's the reason why I don't watch. I'm not even sure you guys can be reformed. Today, I think USPS is almost irrelevant. They are the crappiest shipper of all of them in the U.S. You could send your stuff via UPS, and it would get there faster and probably cheaper. But having a postal service is a legitimate constitutional function. So, okay, we're stuck with that. So, guys, go over to China, see what they're doing, and improve on it so it's better here, so that we don't have the world's crappiest postal service. Okay. I got two of you here. I don't know which two. I think Jeanette's here. So I'm going to talk about Trump's address before a joint session of Congress 2 nights ago. Yeah, hey, Jeanette. I have not scripted any of this. I didn't think it was appropriate, because I can do this one off the top of my head. To begin with, I don't usually watch these things. I don't watch State of the Union addresses unless I'm covering it for the show. I don't watch any of these things because It's all the same. The president will say something, and like there's a damned applause sign in Congress, and everybody in his party will stand up, cheer, and clap, and the opposing party will sit on their hands and not move and look like jerks. And that happens with every time, every single time. Doesn't matter. If it's a Democrat, the Democrats go nuts. If it's a Republican, the Republicans go nuts. And really, I have to wonder, I would really like to see this one time. One time I'd like to go to one of these so I can see if they actually do. Maybe have an actual applause sign. Because these guys do it so by rote. Applause. Anyway, it's all the same. I never watch these freaking things, ever. But I got attention called to it. Oh my God. Let's start with the simple stuff that I heard a great joke about with the Democrats. Here they are, those rat bastards, and they are, holding up these little black signs, right? The little black signs kind of look like what you hold up at an auction. You know, if you're going to bid on something, you lift this up, bid goes up, you lift it up again, show that you're buying something at auction. And the joke I heard was that they hadn't seen Democrats with so many of those little signs since the last slave auction. That's great. I love that. Since the last slave auction, because they were the party of slavery at the time. But that wasn't really much of an issue. What was an issue was them staying seated for totally inappropriate moments. There were a number of them. But the one that absolutely enraged me was that kid who was a brain cancer survivor. You Democrats in Congress, you stupid pieces of shit, do not understand that this was like a Make-A-Wish moment for this kid, right? You know what the Make-A-Wish Foundation is. They go around, they find terminally ill kids, and they try to give them their heart's desire before they die. Well, this was similar. It was a kid who was being given a totally honorary thing, and he was having the time of his life, and all the Republicans are up, and the Democrats are sitting on their fracking hands. What the hell is wrong with you schmucks? That deserved a totally bipartisan stand up, clap your ass off, and you twisted fucking sons of bitches sat there on your hands. You are sick, twisted, disgusting, horrifying individuals. You are horrifying, and you totally disgust me. I don't even know what to say about you schmucks. That was the most horrible thing. You did it throughout. There was Larkin Riley. You didn't stand for that. There was that guy who got a West Point appointment. That's bipartisan. Oh, great, guy at West Point, awesome. No, you stayed seated for that. But that kid, man, with the brain, you guys are absolute, and I don't usually swear, you guys are absolute fuckholes. Jesus tap dancing Christ. What kind of people do you think you are, exactly? You are horrible. That kid should have gotten everyone. Can you imagine what that kid even felt like? Here he is, getting his heart's desire, and over there, right next to him, is a whole bunch of assholes who are not standing and clapping. You guys are the worst. You're absolutely the worst. You have gone from being an opposition party to being so totally, completely engrossed in Trump derangement syndrome that you cannot even do something simple like that. You're sick. You have got to get psychological help. That is the only thing you need. You are so TDS'd out, you've got to get psychological help. And I will be talking about that in just a little bit. You are sick and twisted and disgusting. Now, I am an atheist. So I don't have any gods to pray to. But, I don't know what your particular God may think about this. But if I was a believer and a praying man, I would pray to God that he would smite every last Democrat who was in that chamber. Smite them down instantly. Now, I am not saying that anybody should go out and do anything rash, like delete them. No, don't do that. Don't do it. I don't want it. It is not a suggestion. My suggestion is that you pray to your God that he smite them down. And maybe if enough people are praying to enough gods, we'll find one that's willing to smite them. They all deserve to be gone. If I had a superpower where I could do teleportation, I would teleport every last one of them into the sun. They're sick and twisted and disgusting. I am shocked that anyone would ever vote for a Democrat. They should never vote for a Democrat after this. This should be the moment that the Democrat Party died. They are a sick, twisted cancer upon our body politic, and they must be removed. If you're voting for them, why? Why are you voting for a Democrat? They're sick. They're disgusting. Frankly, they're just plain evil. Yeah, Jeanette, there was no excuse for them not to stay on their asses. Yeah, it's for God to take care of them. I get that. Christian God, you're supposed to forgive people. And you're not, you don't pray to your God to smite down your enemies particularly. But, maybe some Hindu God. If we get enough gods involved, we'll finally hit one that just says, fuck those guys. Why do you vote for them? Why does anyone vote for a Democrat at this point? I'm seeing a lot of videos, on X that are called mostly from TikTok. They're mostly called from TikTok, where some Democrat voters have realized this, and they're never voting Democrat again. There's a lot of videos about people jumping ship. It's hard for me to describe whether or not that's significant or not, because the Republicans and stuff tend to cross-post them, so it's hard to get a handle on how many explicitly is happening to, as opposed to just like, okay, I've seen that. But there is clearly some people who are jumping ship at this point. They are sadly offset by the assholes on social media. And there is one, Destiny. You may remember Destiny as the guy who cheered Republicans who got killed by accident, who were just innocent bystanders who got killed by that guy when they tried to assassinate Trump. He lauded that. He was happy about that. He went on TV and stuff, and they had him on precisely because it was so outrageous. But he lauded that. He was happy that innocent people died. That sick little twisted monkey. And then he made a post within the last 24 hours where he said, I don't get why the Republicans support this kid, meaning that kid who was a brain tumor survivor. And I don't get why it is that they support him, other than he's conservative. Maybe it's the fact that he might have a little of that tumor left in his brain. Somebody actually fracking said that. Destiny said that. And he's not the only one. That's just the one that was the most horrific. Social media is filled to overflowing with people who are seriously suffering from TDS. And they need treatment. For God's sake, you need treatment. You are mentally ill. Maybe it's TDS. Maybe it's deeper than that. But if you are now supporting the Democratic Party, you're mentally ill. Period. You're mentally ill. Yeah, I don't recall what I was going to say, other than I want to say to you, you have to make a distinction between politician Democrats and just your average run-of-the-mill Democrat. I have my best friend in the world, a guy who I have known since high school, and he is incredibly intelligent. Huge lefty. When we get together, we'll often have, conversations about politics, and we're always on opposite ends of the spectrum. But it doesn't matter. We're friends. We've known each other forever. We can agree to disagree. That's not a problem. And I think that's the case with, most of my Democrat friends. You can agree to disagree. Joe Average Democrat, they're good people. There's nothing wrong with them. They have a totally different, perspective about how things should run than you do, but they're decent enough people. And then they get on social media and they turn into assholes. And then you have to make the distinction between them and, the rat bastards in Congress who did not stand. There are those people, the horrible ones, the terrible ones, the ones that should be smited. Those guys represent a group that isn't the same as Joe Average Democrat. You got to make a distinction between that, because what you don't want is to be calling every Democrat your enemy, because they're not. The ones in Washington, absolutely your enemy. Everyone's enemy. The enemy of civilization itself. The things they want are anti-civilization. They are backwards steps in civilization. Democrats are anti-civilization at this point. Jeanette says they hate Trump more than they love others. This is one of those things I just don't understand, right? I mean, I can sit here and go full Howard Beale, like I have done. I didn't plan this. I never planned this. I never rehearsed this. It just happens. But I mean, I don't get it. I do not get it. I mean, I take a page out of my own history, right? I'm divorced. Like every divorce, there was a period of time when my ex and I hated each other's guts. I'm sure I had this thought, and I'm absolutely certain that my ex had it too, where we just were thinking like, God, if the other person would just die, this would be a hell of a lot easier. And I was not thrilled with her for a good 7 or 8 years after the divorce. And I don't want to say that this is one-sided. I assume that she probably felt the same way about me. But it went away. Today, if I was to spend much time with her, and because our kids are grown, I haven't seen her in years, but if I did see her, I'd be able to sit down, we'd have a cordial conversation or something. We wouldn't be going out or getting back together, but we'd be cordial. We don't hate each other anymore. But Democrats, they kept all of this hatred. It's about 10 years now. How can you sustain that? How do you sustain burning, absolute burning, pure hatred for so long? How do you do that? I would find it exhausting. I'd have to try to be that angry and that full of hate for so long. I would have to wake up every morning and say to myself, okay, all right, I got to get myself into a hatred mode. I have to get myself really riled up. I'd have to do that every single day, and it would get just, how do you do it? How do they do it? How can they possibly maintain that level of anger for so long? Jeanette says, your brother is a Democrat. He blocked me. Jesus, I'm sorry to hear that. He blocked me because I said agree to disagree. He said there was no way that he could have someone in his life that could be agreeable to anything he doesn't approve of. I'm really sorry about that. I'm not entirely certain that my estrangement with my children doesn't have something to do with that. I don't know. They've ejected me from their lives with no explanation. So I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with that. I know that, going through college when they did, they picked up a lot of stupid leftist ideas. Maybe it's the same. I don't know. But I just don't get it. And again, I'm really sorry to hear that. I've lost friends, old friends, people I've known for 30 years, which is amazing to me. Why can't we agree to disagree? We've done it before. But no, it's Trump. It's TDS. It's mentally ill. Let me slip down here because I have something about that. Sorry. I have a whole bunch of stuff here. And I didn't... Okay, well, I'm not sure where I have it in my actual notes here or script. But let me talk to you about your mental illness. If you have this much pure hatred in your heart for so long. Jeanette says, yes, TDS is stronger than anything. Yeah, if you've had that much hatred in your heart for so long, you're mentally ill and you need therapy. So, my parents were both psychologists. One of my daughters is a psychologist, a PhD level, all of them. She is now in residency. I am not a psychologist. I am not qualified to diagnose or treat anyone. But I know where you can go for it. The American Psychological Association, the APA, which is kind of like the AMA but for psychologists, has a great website, has a great spot on their website. It's locator.apa.org. That's spelled Locator, locator.apa.org. That URL again is locator.apa.org. And there's a link to that in my description box below. If you go to that page, you can easily just put in your address, your zip code, whatever, and it will spit back qualified psychologists in your area who can help you. And what you need to do, walking in, don't lie to your therapist. You never lie to your lawyer, and you never lie to your therapist. If you committed a murder, you tell your lawyer, I killed this guy. Because the lawyer's got to know that if they're going to mount the best defense possible. They have to know if you are guilty. Same thing with psychologists. I mean, half of their job is sitting there trying to drag out of you as easily as they possibly can, often for weeks and weeks, what's really going on under your psyche. So if you're going to make that call, if you're going to do that, find yourself a psychologist and then go into the office, you have to be truthful. You have to say, I would suggest you walk in there and just say this to them. Hello, my name is John Doe. I am extraordinarily angry at President Trump. It has been tearing me up inside for years and years, and I need help figuring out how I can maybe let go of some of this. Or maybe, if you want to consider it, maybe your belief system is wrong. Maybe your belief system doesn't match reality. Maybe you need to go to a therapist and say, my belief system does not appear to match reality. Can you help me get one that does? That's what's necessary. If you are a Democrat, and you really, truly have this burning, deep hatred in your heart for years and years and years, it is now a mental illness, and you need to seek treatment. If you don't, there is a very strong possibility that at some point you will self-delete. I am real good at picking this stuff out. I have looked at numerous celebrities over the course of my life and said, yeah, that one's going to self-delete. And they did. maybe it's just that I'm an informed amateur with psychology. So when I look at, I can see certain things and I go, oh man, they're going to self-delete. What is it? Ellen Page, one of the last few years, transitioned. She's now a trans male. Or he, I guess. No, she. I'm not going to engage in this idiocy. Ellen Page, if you look at interviews when she was behaving female, she seemed to be a reasonably happy person. When you look at interviews with her now, when she's trying to act like a guy, she is clearly very troubled. It's all in her body language. It's in her facial expressions. The two are night and day. She's happy as a woman, and she's really depressed, clearly very, very depressed, trying to be a guy. Ellen Page is likely to self-delete. Write it down. I said it here first on March 7th, 2025. I predict that Ellen Page self-deletes. Probably sooner rather than later. She's not in good shape. She needs an intervention. She needs to go to locator.epa.org. She needs therapy. So, guys, my Democrat friends, my people that are actually friends of mine, that we just agree to disagree. Do you guys actually support what went on there 2 nights ago? Do you actually support the Democrats? Every single one. Not a single one of them stood. Do you really support them? Because if you do, there's something wrong. You should be able to look at that and say, that's damned evil. And you know what's real interesting about it, too? They knew they were going to do it, right? They get a thing that says, okay, the president's he's going to talk here, he's going to invite this, he's going to show this person here, he's going to show that person there. So they all got together, and they said, okay, whenever the president's going to do something, we sit and we don't clap. And maybe we hold up our stupid little black signs like we were at a slave auction. And they said, okay, he's going to have a kid here who's a brain cancer survivor. Make sure we sit. Make sure we sit and we don't clap. They worked this crap out in advance. That's how evil they are. They sat down with a list and said, okay, we don't stand here, we don't stand here, we don't stand here, we don't stand here. And that included this kid. These people are so evil. How can you support them? Truly, how can my Democrat friends, the ones whom I count as friends, and we agree to disagree, how can you support this man? How can you support that party anymore? I hope very much, because I'm seeing a lot of pushback from it, even though I don't know how to judge it. Social media is so hard to... But I think there's some people who have been jumping ship legitimately, and that's good. Even if you don't, decide to vote Republican at some point, jumping ship, and then vote for any one of the other 10 or so people that are on that ballot nobody ever votes for. You can't support these guys anymore. They're not good people. They're just outright evil. Every last one of them. I guess that's pretty much what I have to say about that. So let's get into a few things that are maybe a little bit more interesting. I'm happier. Slip on into the sci-fi side of the world. You may remember the last time I was on, I was really upselling Capricorn 45. As it happened, as you probably saw, I was not able to do any kind of coverage there, and here's why. I got into it too late. I was coming at it about a week before the con. That's not enough time. If you want to get a press pass, which is what I wanted to get, they don't just hand those out willy-nilly. They have to know something about you. They have to say, okay, all right, he's cool. We can give him a press pass. They know nothing about me. I was a complete stranger. I totally understood when they emailed me and said, hey, we can't do this because we don't know who you are and all that. And I said, hey, no problem. Totally understand. I've been on con committees myself. I get you. I'll see you there this time. Maybe we'll talk, something like that. But, before the next con, I will be contacting you well in advance. And, we'll make sure that you understand that I'm going to treat you right. And I'm going to cover you well. And I won't cover anybody that doesn't want to be covered. And you can put me up on the party floor and, all that. Basically, none of that happened. And as a result, I was not able to cover it. And I'm really not going to discuss the con. I upsold it a lot. And there was nothing wrong with the con. Don't get me wrong. There was nothing wrong with the con. It was great. It was fun. But there are a variety of reasons that I can't tell you that have to do with how I approach this next year. So I'm going to take what I learned at this con, at Capricorn 45, and roll it into actual coverage of Capricorn 46. So I'm sorry, but it's one of those few times where I just have to say I'm not at liberty to discuss certain things. But next year, Capricorn 46, I will be talking to them well in advance, and we'll have all of this stuff taken care of, and I'll be live streaming from there from time to time and interviewing anybody that wants to be. I just couldn't do it this time. I mean, I could have, but it would have been against their expressed wishes, and I don't want that. I want to be able to come back next year and get that press pass. So that's Capricorn 45. It just didn't. I mean, it was great, but I am not going to talk about it a hell of a lot. Other news in the science fiction world: Kathleen Kennedy is retiring. Woohoo! I should open up a bottle of wine for that. I don't have one, but by God, I should. Kathleen Kennedy is retiring. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. After having driven all of the Lucasfilm properties completely into the ground, she's finally retiring. And it doesn't matter. Star Wars is not going to get better. It's dead. I mean, they've screwed it up so bad. There's no bringing it back. It has passed the point of no return. Same thing with Indiana Jones. It is a dead property, past the point of no return. It cannot be salvaged. There is no property that Lucasfilm now has that's worth a damn thing. If I were George Lucas, I would actually be considering saying to Disney, hey, you guys are imploding. Lucasfilm is crap under you guys. I'll buy it back from you for 1/4 of what you paid me for it. And I think they might go for it. And I'd like to see that, because as much as I dislike, the prequels, I think there's a lot to be said about them that's terrible. I'm not a fan of those. But to his credit, George Lucas did an appropriate artistic choice rather than a financial one. He said, okay, we've got episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That is the end of the Skywalker saga. There's nothing left to do. We're done. Fade out, the end. That's what Marvel should have done at the end of Endgame. Fade out, the end, we're done. If George Lucas bought it back, he's too old, he's not going to run anything, but he'll make the right artistic decision. We have now seen it all. There's nothing more here. Fade out, the end, before all of the butts are out of the seats, which is what's happening to Marvel. They didn't fade out the end at the end of Endgame, and as a result, and I knew this would happen, and I said it before it would happen, they're just going to keep going and making more crap until there are no butts in the seats. And here we are. The last several movies have actually been total flops. This last one, Captain America: Brave New World, complete flop. I care about it so little that I'm not even pirating it. I just don't care. And understand, I like Anthony Mackie. He seems like a really nice guy. He's a good actor. He could be a decent Captain America, but I'm told that it's terrible. I mean, this movie has gone through about 50 billion reshoots. So yeah, Marvel is not doing what they should have done, which was just drawing the curtain. And if Lucas were to get Lucasfilm back, he would just draw the curtain and be done with it. And I think that would be the best thing that could happen. Alongside all this, interesting news over at Paramount and CBS. Skydance is looking to buy Paramount and CBS and Viacom or whatever. But basically it's Paramount and CBS. However, CBS is currently being sued for $20 billion. The FCC is investigating CBS. CBS News appears to be sabotaging the entire company, including Paramount Pictures. And Paramount makes Star Trek. Skydance is, according to what insiders, people who claim to have insiders are saying, they're very nervous about the lawsuit because, after all, if it is successful, Skydance is going to be on the hook for $20 billion. If I was running a production company, I would not buy a company with that kind of financial and legal problems. And I don't think that Skydance is dumb enough to go through with it. If I were them, I'd wait until the whole mess had been adjudicated and then buy it for a song after it goes under. And furthermore, I don't even understand why Skydance wants to buy the thing. What would they be getting? Well, CBS News, all of whom are propagandists and are being sued for it. And this includes a criminal charge, by the way, of bribing public officials. And they get Paramount Pictures, but what does Paramount have that's worth paying one thin penny for? Yes, they have a massive catalog of films that go back 100 years or more. Some of them are wonderful and brilliant movies. But try getting a millennial or later to watch a film made prior to 2000. You can't do it unless they're already fans of older movies. You have to sit them down in a chair, strap them in, and tape their eyeballs open to get them to watch a movie made prior to 2000. So this giant catalog of films that Paramount has had is worthless because modern audiences won't watch it. Now they also have Star Trek, but nobody watches their Star Trek. It's garbage. And if they are watching it, they're probably doing it the way I did it before I finally exited Star Trek fandom entirely, which was via piracy. And yes, I have exited Star Trek, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and all the great franchises I grew up with, including their fandoms. I cannot identify as a Star Trek fan without being attached somehow to that talentless hack fraud Alex Kurtzman and his mafia of character assassins. Modern Star Trek sucks. Worse, Kurtzman has either tainted or retconned out of existence incredibly important aspects of that universe. Because of Kurtzman, most of Star Trek the original series and much of Star Trek the Next Generation have been retconned out of existence. The episodes that you may have seen of those series now never happened. So I don't have nothing whatsoever to do with Kurtzman and his garbage. I'm no longer a Star Trek fan. As I say, the Paramount catalog, that's an amazing catalog. You know, they have multiple studios worth of movies, films that go back for 100 years, TV series. But pay for Paramount Plus? Pay to see that? Who is gonna do that? Well, the answer is nobody, which is why Skydance is looking at buying them. They're falling apart. The streaming service is dead. They bet the farm, Paramount bet the farm on Paramount Plus, the streaming service. And Paramount Plus, the streaming service, bet the farm on Star Trek. Star Trek sucks. Nobody watches Paramount Plus. Paramount parent company is screwed. And that's why they're falling apart. And that's why Skydance is looking at buying them. I think the deal will fall through. Skydance is going to quickly realize that they'd be buying a pure money-sucking machine rather than an asset. So what happens after that? Well, ultimately, Paramount is going to go belly up, probably sooner rather than later. And around that point, before they go completely belly up, they're going to be forced to sell all of their intellectual property, a lot of their back catalog, in a going out of business fire sale, and among those IPs will be Star Trek. Now, I'm pretty sure that I could buy Star Trek simply by starting a GoFundMe to accumulate funds. And I think about, things like incentives, something I think that people would really like if you're a big donor. You get to either write an episode or pitch an idea that gets passed off to a staff writer because, Star Trek fans are great, and they have great ideas, but sometimes they're not great writers. But you still get paid for the idea. Maybe you get a walk-on. Maybe you get to be an extra in the background. You get to be Mr. Leslie, who's reacting to all the leads all the time. Maybe you just crewman number 6 in the corridor. Who knows? Maybe you're crewman number 6 who gets killed 5 minutes into the episode to prove that the danger is real. I don't know. I think about stuff like that. And I have to tell you, I would not be running Star Trek. I'm too old, my health is too crappy. But I would hire for myself the best executive assistant alive. I have worked with her before. Adrian, if you're watching this, if I ever own Star Trek, will you please be my executive assistant? Please. I might make you a VP, but I just need somebody to do all the stuff that I'm not going to be able to do. Well, see you, Jeanette. Have fun. I'll catch you around last time. Have a good one. I do have an idea for a series, a Star Trek series. I've talked about it on the show. If somebody wants me to talk about it, I will. Even though it looks like I don't actually have any viewers now. But I have an idea for a Star Trek series. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't run it. I couldn't show run it. I'm too old. My health is too bad. I would call Vic Mignogna to show run it. And if he didn't like my idea, I'd have him pitch ideas until I found one I liked. But Vic Mignogna has got to be involved in Star Trek. He must be involved in Star Trek. He is one of the very few professionals who really understands what Star Trek is. I'd also call Seth MacFarlane, and I would have him pitch a series. Because Seth MacFarlane he must be involved in Star Trek. The Orville proves that he understands perfectly what Star Trek is. And the biggest thing, this is a huge big deal, I would call game developers. You see, since the advent of video games, and I say this as a computer scientist with 40 years experience, it is quite clear that consumers have made a choice. They prefer interactive adventures rather than just sitting back and watching them. They way prefer it. And because of this, if I owned Star Trek, 99% of the effort would actually be in the games. You have games that share the same universe. If you have a film or even a TV series, they share that same universe and impact each other, but the games have got to come first. Visual storytelling like movies and TV are dying in favor of games. People spend hours upon hours upon hours upon hours on games and very little on TV or streaming. Not nearly as much. And so if it were me, I would aim straight for the video games as my primary thing. That would be my main focus, is the video games. I mean, I'd have this other stuff going on at the same time too, but the video games would be the biggest. How do we make video games that are Star Trek video games? Video games that show an optimistic future. Video games that are not constant battles and combat in space, because that's not what Star Trek is. Star Trek is exploring strange new worlds, seeking out new life and new civilizations, and boldly going where no one has gone before. And that's what a video game should do. It should be radically different. It should allow the user to go through a process of exploration. Maybe reading some dangers along the way that they have to fight, but exploration rather than just fighting all the time. And all of this, the video games, the series, films, everything, they would share the same Star Trek universe. And that Star Trek universe would be the one that we saw from 1966 to 2005. Star Trek as we knew it died in 2005. I've got a whole other video about this, about how Star Trek is no longer Star Trek. And it's largely because everybody making it is a freaking nihilist, and they cannot conceive of a positive, hopeful future. And consequently, they've decided to tear it down. They think that Star Trek needs to be fixed to be more nihilistic. And so Alex Kurtzman, that talentless hack fraud, and his mafia of character assassins are going around thinking that they are better than the people who originated the original source material. And I got to tell you, there's not a single writer or producer on there who can hold a candle to Gene Kuhn or Dorothy Fontana or even David Gerald. There's so many names. These people are talentless hack frauds by comparison to the people who actually made the original source material. So, speaking of that timeline, the 1966 to 2005 that died right in 2005, I would make a point to excise everything Kurtzman has made completely out of existence. Star Trek 2009, STD, SNW, STP, all of them gone. And why? Because they're stupid, juvenile soap operas. Star Trek always had more in common with a branch of science fiction called space opera. It's not really 100%, scientifically accurate. They do make an effort, but they do things that are not physically possible lots of times. It's what they call space opera. Star Trek is no longer space opera. It's soap opera. And excising all this crap that this talentless hack fraud and his mafia of character assassins have created is easy. My Star Trek would be a continuation of that 1966-2005 franchise and get rid of everything in between. Excising them is easy because it's a universe that has time travel. All you have to do is choose some of the right characters, and by the way, characters from Star Trek Enterprise are absolutely on the table for this one, because, wouldn't you like to see them again, because member berries, but they're on the table for that. In 2 hours, using some of the characters from that, and maybe another one, I could completely excise those things. They would cease to exist. They would be retconned completely out of existence, and we would be back to the 1966 to 2005 franchise. My Star Trek would maintain continuity with that era of the franchise. I would never attempt to fix Star Trek because Star Trek never needed fixing. Star Trek was a singular entity with a very specific thing. It was very scientific, not necessarily 100% right, but the stories tended to be about some aspect of science. It was not soap opera. There was character development, but it was adult character development. Let me explain something here, because Strange New Worlds lost me in the first episode. It lost me when they started making Spock a learning disabled P3do. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody who likes small children. They made him one of those. And they did it because they took all of this crap with T'Pring that never should have been filmed. And now Spock knows T'Pring as an adult. In fact, he's banged her a few times. Spock knows T'Pring as an adult. So why, in the episode Amok Time, from which the original source material, from which Alex Kurtzman and his mafia of character assassins stole, in that, Spock had explicitly not seen T'Pring since he was about 10 years old. And in fact, there's a scene when he's looking at her as a child. Why would he do that if he knew her as an adult? So he is a learning disabled P3do. Spock is a P3do now. That's what they've done. That's what I would excise out of existence. Now, my biggest problem in terms of, trying to buy Star Trek when it's put up for sale by Paramount because they're falling to pieces, is figuring out what a target amount to shoot for. Tens of millions is probably too small. Hundreds of millions, certainly. Billion? No, not in a million years. I wouldn't pay $1 billion for Star Trek. It's functionally worthless now. I do worry, of course, what would happen if somebody else buys Star Trek before I could, because I'd be a good steward of the franchise, and clearly we have terrible stewards now. So that's why I wanted to start the GoFundMe say now, so that when they sell Star Trek, I can jump in with a reasonable offer. But how much, I have no idea. I mean, like I say, functionally, that hack fraud Alex Kurtzman and his mafia of character assassins had devalued the IP to functional worthlessness. No one watches this crap. The few people who like it are the woke. But there's such a small number of them. They're vocal, but there are not many of them, and they cannot sustain a streaming service, as is obvious. Only the woke watch the crap, and there aren't enough of them to keep Paramount afloat. By the way, if you're woke, I mentioned if you're suffering from TDS, go to locator.apa.org. It's in my description box. That's locator.apa.org. One more time, that URL is locator.apa.org. Go to that URL. You'll be able to find a qualified therapist in your area. And as people who suffer from TDS, you cannot lie to your therapist. You must tell your therapist the truth at all times, even if it's embarrassing, because they can't treat you if they don't know the truth. They spend half their time trying to drag out of you what the actual issue is. So if you're woke, go to locator.apa.org and find a qualified psychologist in your area. Walk into his or her office and say this: "Hi, I'm John Doe, and I'm woke. However, I'm finding that everyone I know thinks I'm an insane asshole. Can you help me get rid of this belief system for one that more closely matches reality?" Oh, yeah. I know how likely that is. The likelihood of you going to locator.apa.org is incredibly tiny, and in making a call to a psychologist is probably somewhere along the lines of 0.000000000000001% chance. But unfortunately, if you don't change, if you woke people don't change, the likelihood is that you'll self-terminate. As I said before, I have an extraordinarily good track record at predicting when troubled individuals may self-terminate. You woke people are extraordinarily troubled. You really, really troubled. You need to get a therapist. I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm saying this as a man whose parents were psychologists, whose one daughter is a psychologist, and I'm trying to have as much empathy as I possibly can for you. You have a serious problem. You need to have it treated. Please go to locator.apa.org before your wokeism and constant disappointment with reality causes you to self-terminate. Please get the help you need. Of course, when it comes to Star Trek, non-woke fans hate every moment of his stupid, inane, juvenile at best soap operas. So that's probably all I got to say about that particular issue. I already did my Gen X story time because I wasn't around, because there wasn't much of anybody around for that. Oddly enough, I have exhausted my prepared remarks Looks like I have one viewer. If you'd like to discuss anything related to, fandom, science fiction, fantasy, superheroes, other related genres, if you want to talk about anything, please hop in on chat. I love talking to my viewers. I love talking to you guys. And it looks like I just lost my one viewer. Well, that's okay. It is now 10:04 p.m. locally. That means it's midnight out on the East Coast. So I'm going to start losing what viewers I might have out there someday. So I guess I just have to say that is all the time that we have today for this episode of the Late Stardate. As always, please like, sub, hit the notification bell, share me on social media, and tell all of your friends, family, neighbors, pets, and livestock to do the same. If you want to follow me on X, I am at SYLTales. So thanks for watching the Late Stardate, because it's always late somewhere in the world, and I'm your host, Bill Stone.
Ultimate power in this world has always been one simple thing: the control and manipulation of minds.